Welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. Our theme for 2025 is clear. Meaning is the new money. In a world shaped by rapid innovation and constant change, the pursuit of purpose and impact has never been more important. I'm Dr. John Dentico, your host, bringing over 30 years of experience in leadership, strategic thinking, and purpose-driven innovation. Here, we tackle the pressing challenges of our time, from the rise of artificial intelligence to the growing need for meaning in the workplace. Together, we'll uncover how leaders can ethically integrate AI to enhance decision-making and keep humanity at the heart of their organizations. Remember, amidst all the technological advancements, in the end, it's always about the people. This podcast is your resource for actionable tools, thought-provoking discussions, and inspiring stories. It's time to go beyond leadership development and focus on leadership impact, creating workplaces where people thrive, innovation flourishes, and meaning truly becomes the new currency. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Now, let's throttle up and dive into today's episode. Hello again and welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Dr. John Dentico. With me today is Denny Burda and James Lawson. They are the co-founders and execs of River Consultancy Group, a boutique partnership consulting firm focused on delivering expert executive advisory. James and Denny have over 25 years of combined experience in software as a service and customer success experience that helps them support some of the biggest names in the industry with their unique approach in go-to-market strategy, leadership development, and transformation. And I'm truly pleased to have them here from the UK today. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you?
Oh, good. Thank you.
Thank you for having us, John.
Oh, great to have you here. Let me start out with this question, up for grabs, as they say, whichever one wants to jump in. Can you explain, for the benefit of myself and for my listeners and viewers, can you explain what a software as a service company is and how it integrates with a go-to-market strategy? That is, can you provide some concrete examples of projects you worked on, the major issue at hand, what you did, and the outcome, without, of course, naming names, unless you want to do that, so my listeners and viewers can understand how it all flows together?
Well, James is the elder statesman of SaaS. I'll let you explain a little bit, and then I'm happy to tackle part two on go-to-market.
Thank you. Yeah, software as a service is effectively buying software that's deployed in a subscription method. Okay, so it's deployed over the internet. It's a method of deployment, and for absolutely everyone listening to this, the most familiar example of that is streaming services such as Netflix. So it's deployed over the internet, and what you are buying into, if you're buying a SaaS solution that solves one of your business problems, is you're buying best practice. So if we think about how traditional software models were deployed for on-premise, i.e. onto your PC, then they would be solutions that were bespoke to that business. Whereas SaaS is coming out of the same tube to the masses. And how they build these SaaS products is they've done the necessary research to look at what are the common pains, what are the common gains of the businesses involved, who are the personas, what outcomes are those personas looking for, and therefore they're able to build a product, a solution that's deployed in a subscription model for people to consume, and it addresses those pains and gains. So it's effectively being able to scale a solution at very low cost, at low risk, with the kind of quid pro quo of you're buying into a solution that moves for you.
Any follow-up on that, Denny, at all?
Yeah, I think James summed it up well. I think Netflix is obviously a great example for anyone who's not familiar, but YouTube with their premium services is another example of kind of the streaming side of it. Odds are, if you're using something like Office 365 or Google Suite, you're also taking part in the SaaS world. And where we've really seen that dramatically change as well is in the realm of cloud hosting, with the expansions of things like Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services. Not only now at scale, an end user may get an O365, but let's say you're a business and you need 20,000 licenses of that. Delivering that and keeping that, what we would have previously called on-premise through a server or data center, is also rapidly changing. And so maybe the important thing to know if you are trying to understand SaaS now is not only is it what's been happening for maybe the past 20, 25 years, it's also moving faster than it's ever moved before because of cloud capabilities. And so to part two of your question, which is go to market, and what does that kind of have to do with SaaS, and maybe how we've encountered it is 20, 25 years ago in the industry of SaaS, if you wanted to go to market, you sent a kind of still close to a traditional salesperson, maybe even to the site of the business you were selling to. They gave a demo, they showed it, they took the potential customers out to lunch and hoped that they were willing to buy a deal. And early on, the subscriptions maybe looked a bit more simple, and they were built around the idea that, hey, you're now our customer and you have 5,000 employees, so we're going to sell you 5,000 licenses. The nuance has greatly grown in pretty much every area of software, to the point that sometimes you're selling based on user license, sometimes you're selling based on actually interactions with the tool, the number of times somebody goes in and does an action. In the world of e-commerce SaaS, it's actually based on transactions. Hey, you pay us X percentage for each sale that you do through our tool. So with that, businesses have had to get a lot more savvy into their customers. You can't just sell a product to everyone because it needs to fit them. And if you don't fit them, for most SaaS products now, you could have 5 competitors or you could have 500 competitors trying to do the exact same thing. And so you need to be smart about what you build, how you build it, how you deliver it to your customers, and who those customers are. And frankly, as that gets harder and harder, it gets more and more expensive. And so that's where this strategy around go to market really starts to come into play.
So let me see if I get this right. So I understand. I now have a much better sense for SaaS.
Mhm.
I got that. So I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong here, that when you sell a SaaS product yourself,
Mhm.
do you do it on a B2B basis, right? Business to business basis. Is that correct?
That's certainly one example, but actually business to consumer is also a fairly strong stake in the market as well.
Okay, because what I'm trying to understand here now in this part is, okay, so now you've hooked up, you
Mhm.
in the sense that you've connected to your client, whether it's a business or an individual.
Mhm.
What kinds of products, what services or products do you now put on the stream, if you will,
Mhm.
to those people? What are they looking for?
In our history is it's products that solve all the big problems, all the big pains. And where in business, it's more things around ERP, so resource planning, whether it be human capital management, but again, service management. Across all industries, there are anything that is complicated can be made simple from a SaaS deployment. And as we've gone on through the years, simplicity has beaten innovation. So we've seen that, and what that means is when we look at the tools that are deployed, if you think of anything that's complicated in your business today, it's more than likely there's a simple solution. And SaaS gives you the autonomy to switch to that solution without having to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. An analogy I quite like to use for SaaS against on-prem, I learned at university, was there was a guy at university, we called him on-prem Pete. He was on-prem Pete because when he came to the bar, he used to brew his own beer at home. He had all of the equipment. He did it all himself. And then we had SaaS Sally. That wasn't her real name, it's a ridiculous name. But Sally, she'd just go to the bar, buy a drink. And if she didn't like it, she could just change it. Whereas on-prem Pete would need to change all of his equipment, change everything that he did, change his recipe, and that was the on-prem model. So when we see solutions go to B2C, then they tend to be the simplicity element of simplicity beating innovation is strikingly the most important thing. When it comes to businesses, it's about how can I reduce the cost of their operation? So what are the costs of all of those decisions? And how usable is it? How well can it be adopted? And that was Denny and I's role for a very long time, is making sure that value was adopted from those systems.
It seems to me it would be correct to say that SaaS gives people sort of an on-demand ability to go in and tap into different knowledge streams, let's call it, from the simple side of it, and extract what they need in order to either enhance their professional development, to reduce costs in the organization if it's a business, those kinds of things. They're seeking for those. I hate to use it, but I'll do it. It's like a giant, let's Google it, in a manner of speaking. In other words, we're searching for particular knowledge to alleviate, as I like to say, a pain that I have or a discomfort that I have. So SaaS gives me the opportunity to search and find those kinds of things that pertain to me personally or to a business. Does that sound about right?
That's spot on. And the interesting thing about this now is we have a lot of research about people's buying journey, what they look for when they are choosing those products. And it can be similar to your analogy of you Google and it's not the first website that pops up or the second, but people are actually digging in, doing research. We're speaking with one of our partners who is a software developer himself and runs a kind of AI lead generation for businesses. And I was talking to him actually just 2 days ago, and they have a new customer that came to them after reviewing over 110 hours of their YouTube content. And so when this customer came in, he said, you don't need to sell me. You don't need to tell me anything else. I just need to know how much it costs and when I can get it on for my team. Because he had done his own Googling, as it were, YouTubing in this case. And because of this access to being able to see what a tool does or what it promises it does and how that can help you either as a consumer or a business, people are now in a state where they're doing what used to be the traditional salesperson roles for them. They're doing the research themselves. And by the time they get to the front lines of a business, they're either already decided or they're very close to deciding between you and maybe one or two other products that do the same thing.
Very interesting. Yeah. I have a specific question because I recalled something some time ago that I read, and I'm just curious to ask this question. A while back, I read, and I think this is true, that we now live in what is called the experience economy. Okay. And what that means is, as a speaker, for example, I'm sure you guys do a bunch of speeches and stuff. People want to walk away with something they can do tomorrow or the next week. They need a tool. So they're looking for an experience that said, hey, here's something, here's the 5 steps to do this, for example. Try that when you get home or try that when you get to the week. Do you see that having an experience in terms of the content? Content is king. In terms of the content that's put on a SaaS pipeline, let's call it. Do you see experience, people wanting more of that kind of a interface or intervention, if you will, with SaaS?
Yeah, I think people still buy with their eyes when it comes to SaaS, and when it comes to experience, there are two plateaus, I think, with experience. So the first one is if they're buying a SaaS tool and it does a job and they're consuming the SaaS tool. Let's just say it does their accounts or it does something menial or whatever, then you're never going to find that you're going to get a fan of that software. The same way as you get like fans of Apple, but consumers of Microsoft, right? So with the SaaS products, there's those consumers, and that experience goes back to the simplicity thing. It's great, it does what I need it to do, and that's one experience. The other experience, which is more for B2C, is around something that is called peak end. I don't know if you've heard of this concept of peak end. Now, peak end is with every human emotion or human experience we have with any tool or anything we go through, there's a point in which we reach a pinnacle of thinking, this is great. And then it finishes. A bit like a roller coaster. There's that big dip, you get the buzz, and at the end you come off and go, that was great. There's an ice cream in the UK, I'm sure you have it in the US, it's like a cornetto. It has a little chocolate bit at the end. You eat that little, you're enjoying the ice cream, you have a little chocolate bit at the end, peak end. That is that's the sort of determination of human experience. Now, if you think about that in terms of what goes on, it's so critical that that experience is incorporated into the deployment of any solution, because I'm trying to think of it as an example. Domino's had this thing where I believe it was in the US where you could tweet Domino's, and back when there was tweets, and they would deliver a pizza to your door within 20 minutes, right? As a customer experience, fantastic. This is crazy. I'm putting a tweet in, I'm getting the pizza I want. But if the pizza arrives and it's cold and it's bad, terrible experience, right? And that's where we go back to peak end. And I certainly see it. I think in Denny and I's line of experience is not talked about enough. But it's, as I know Denny will speak on this, but it's not just about the experience with the software, it's also experience as a service as a whole. So the people that provide it, the company, the brand, and everything else.
Yeah, what am I getting for my money, in a manner of speaking? What can I do that's different tomorrow? Absolutely. I locked into that. I would have to agree. I'm not a SaaS expert by any stretch of the imagination, but it seems to me that when you're connecting with something, you want that service to matter in some way in your life. So go ahead, Denny, you want to follow it up?
I think just a follow-up point to that, which James was saying, is people do still buy into the human element. Something when we talk to customers of ours who are looking or questioning, why did a customer leave our SaaS and whatnot, it's the almost can be a factor. Just like James highlighted, it could just be, they found something that does it simpler or easier. They might have found something that does it cheaper. But just as often, there's a human element, a human experience to that buying decision. And that's actually was not, I think, considered in recent history. Maybe the past 3-4 years of SaaS, it was we're selling to a CIO, a CFO, an executive, or somebody who reports into that, and it's a line item, and prove your worth, prove that the tool does what it does. But when you talk about that experience element, it's actually very much playing into the fact that your marketing campaign, the friendliness of your salesperson, the trust you've built through mutual conversation, maybe the ability you give your either consumers or consumers who are other businesses the chance to interact with your product before they buy, are all starting to have that kind of taster experience element to it. So I think we're in an exciting place with SaaS because there's never been a higher cost of acquiring a new customer. It's about 6x right now so you spend about 6 times to get a customer in at the business scale. It's a little different in B2C, but in B2B, you're spending 6 times what you are maybe getting from them. Sometimes even in that first year, sometimes it takes 2 to 3 years for a customer to pay off, which is relatively problematic because a lot of SaaS business can see their churn in 12 to 18 months, that customer's gone. And I think the highlight of that is so many companies go, we made it past the finish line, we sold. We got them to buy our product. We solved their problem. We already had that conversation. But then they disengage. And it's like having a business acquaintance that you talk to once every 16 to 18 months, or who only sends you messages that say, hey, John, hope you're well. And that's really not what's going to keep you around, is it? It's knowing that not only does that SaaS product or company solve your need, but do they care? And that's an element that's making a new appearance in the experience side of it.
All right, great. Listen, I want to jump now from that. Was great. I appreciate that. I'm a lot smarter, and I hope that my folks who are listening have taken that all in, because I think it's really a wonderful. It's like looking below the iceberg. You're looking down into what's really going on below the layer there that you don't see, all the backroom stuff, if you will. So I truly appreciate that. Here we go. We're going to go to we're going to skip subjects here for a bit. How does a go-to-market strategy integrate with one of your favorite subjects, and certainly one of mine, leadership development. Okay? What is it that River Consultancy Group does, now listen to the words, to increase leadership capacity in organizations? Up for grabs.
Great question. I don't know if I have to fight James for this one or if we can take
We'll take turns. We got a lot to say on this.
Easy to say in a sense. Go to market is what brings in either your new revenue, your new customers, or it's a strategy that helps you understand and grow the customer base you have. It can mean either, but it's basically how does a business go out to their consumer base, either new or existing, to increase their revenue. So it is the lifeblood of a business, SaaS or otherwise, really. And as a leader in that position, and I've seen this hands-on with some of the leaders we've interviewed and talked to, they almost take this playbook mentality of, oh, it worked really well for Microsoft in the mid-2000s, or I went to an AWS conference and heard somebody from Amazon speak about how they're doing it. And they simply try to repeat, rinse and repeat. Or even worse yet, it worked for them. Their own strategy worked for them last year, so they try it again this year. And in the realm of leadership development and leadership growth, do you know a single leader who succeeds by doing the same thing they did a year ago with no change or no growth or no lessons learned?
And every organization is different.
Yeah, exactly. One of the biggest frustrations I think I actually see, James, I think you probably will agree with me on this, is we see new leaders coming into new companies and attempting to run the same strategies they did at their last company. Even if those strategies were very successful, that might be what got them the job at this company. But this idea that you can do anything the same is mind-boggling to me. I would never expect that of a leader, but we do experience it a lot with leaders, and they don't even necessarily realize that they have to change until suddenly the consequences of doing something previous came in. So I would say there's a challenge to all leaders, whether it's sales strategy, marketing strategy, coming into a new business, or simply hitting the next quarter or the next fiscal year, is you cannot stand on your laurels of what worked last year or 6 months ago to survive in a very rapidly changing software as a service business.
Okay. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, one of my thoughts around what Denny said there is just there's something about leadership, certainly within the last 10 years, and we've been studying it from within our firms and now in this position. And one of the things that is a true causation of this is the instant reaction for a new leader to assert their dominance by addressing an audience and their people and saying, I've done this before and I will do it again here, everything will go great. Possibly the worst thing you could say, because your audience they've checked out of that. They want you as a leader to come in. Our proposition is always the same, which is if you're a new leader, you have to become an entrepreneur very quickly. You have to almost act like a new business leader and do your discovery as if you were a consultant yourself. And by doing so, one of the things is they have to do a retrospective on their experience, but they also have to look at the fact that they've got certain things to consider, not just leadership. They have to consider the people. They have to consider what's involved for them as a leader. And the human behavioral element of that leadership side is something that is also overlooked all the time. And you may have heard it in the term of SCARF, SCARF. And that is status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. And those things are going through your head all the time. As a human being, but as a leader, those things are playing. And as a new leader, the one thing you shouldn't be putting out there is status. That's in fact the very last thing you should be putting out there. But that's what we're seeing come through the new ranks of leaders. And that be because of the credibility that they use to get position. And they seem to carry that forward. When they carry that forward, they've got the job, they're on a roll, they're feeling good. What they're not doing is stopping and assessing the environment. What they tend to do is they'll assess the environment, but at the same time, they'll let everybody know that I'm the person leading the charge and I know what to do.
Let me just give you some reflections on basically On my 30 years in doing leadership consulting and training and experiencing this, what I refer to as a tectonic transformational shift in the models and ideas of leadership from the hierarchical, still, as you just related, I'm the champion here. I'll take you to the future from this hierarchical model to leadership as an influence relationship. That anybody can exert influence in the organization. It is not position bound. And that more and more, especially in the hybrid working world. You see it manifesting itself right before your very eyes as people are now distributed through different organizations. Even though PricewaterhouseCoopers and Amazon have said, we want everybody back in the brick and mortar establishments. Okay, we're raw, sis, boom, bah, here we go. And the answer is, let's see what happens. Amazon has said, we're going to get rid of a lot of the bureaucracy. Okay, I want to see you do that. Because as you well know, bureaucracy is sinister. It has a way of coming back. It's the gift that keeps on giving. And the thing that it hates, the thing that bureaucracy hates, from the time that Max Weber created it back in the early 1900s, was it hates change. It can't stand change. It can handle incremental change, maybe a tweaky kind of a change, but it hates big change. And it just can't deal with it. And to your point, this is something I've been talking about lately, is doing what you say. Take the complex and make it as simple for people to understand. I love doing that. I'm all about that in a lot of ways. I was at a meeting this past Monday with an association group. And I was saying to them, look, we've spent the last 60 or 70 years in leadership development raising a generation of Jedi Knights. Right? That's what we've done. Okay? With the hope that if the problems get too big, the CEO or the president of the company or the managing director, if you will, in the UK, will come down, brandish their light sword, and vanquish the problems that lie before us, right? And they promise they're going to do that, just like you said.
Yeah.
I said, in the world we live in today, CEOs, and I'm sure I get a lot of kickback on this, but CEOs and managing directors have to see themselves more like Yoda. And what did Yoda do? He created the environment for learning. He was the facilitator for Luke. He gave Luke the opportunity to fail. He sent him into the cave and said, you only take what you got. And you may find out truths that are going to hurt and you may not like it, but that's the job of becoming a Jedi Knight. So what I tell them now is the job of the CEOs today is to raise a generation of Jedi Knights. They're the guys, they're the folks, men, women, they're going to do the job for you. They're going to get it done. And it's the only way I can get people to make this mind shift, if you will, to say, it's in the end, as you said, I think you and Denny both said it, it's all about the people in the end. It's always about the people in the end. And you are not going to succeed. You will burn out. You will die quickly if you take the whole organization onto your shoulders and say, I will lead you to victory. The halls of business are lined with all kinds of burned out hulks of businesses and people who said that. I'd love to get your reflection on that, if you will.
I think you're hitting, for James and I at River, we built a training course basically to teach mostly newer businesses, startups, scale-ups, how to do their go-to-market strategies. And one of the things we built very fundamentally into that core is actually that this is not a lone hero mentality, whether that's the best salesperson on your team or your CEO or CMO with this strategy that's going to save you. And in fact, what we did is we put the responsibility of the business back on the shoulders of everyone in the business. And in fact, what we said is, if you're a leader, the founder, the CEO, the managing director, you need to shift the priorities of what matters. I think a lot of, especially SaaS business, but all business the past 20 years has had this mentality of, my obligation is to the shareholders. We got to keep Wall Street happy. And we forget that 100 years ago, before the modern sales motions, people weren't sales leaders. They were butchers, they were bakers, they were brick and mortar bricklayers, and their service was to the community, to the people who would gather that product, use that product, eat that product. It was to the other people they were working with, sometimes as a matter of self-preservation. Hey, if I don't make sure the knots are tight on this, James is going to fall off the building while he's working on it. And then it was to the growth of the business. But you know what? That worked for hundreds, if not thousands of years before we realized people could get rich quick with Rockefeller and the barons of old. And we've tried to repeat that model. And it's frankly, yes, there's a Jeff Bezos or a Mark Zuckerberg out there for every one in a few billion people. But for the rest of us who need to do life and do business, what we've tried to do with Build the Cat, our go-to-market motion, is train the entire team to say, everybody owns the success, everybody benefits from the success, and the success is, are we doing right by our customers, and are we doing right by the person either sitting next to us if they're sitting in an office or sitting on the screen with us? Because when we all own it and when we all succeed, that's what keeps talent in place. That's what keeps them invested in the growth of the company. That's what keeps leadership in a positive trajectory, doing exactly what you said, training up the next generation. Because if they need to figure out how to stay ahead in business, they need somebody who knows how to do the business now. And so that's very much speaks to the heart of why James and I consult. Again, we're two old school customer success guys. Both of us started in that side of the business pretty much when it started. And now we're teaching businesses, hey, this isn't just a department that you use to make sure your customers don't run away. It's actually the methodology and the mindset through which you run your entire business. And that's how you actually not only survive right now, but thrive in a fairly tough market.
And I think the so what. I think the so what is it. We can visibly see it hit businesses' bottom line. You can, if people go, yeah, but what about the bottom line? We can visibly see it and show it. So we have the data behind it. But to use your Yoda analogy, if you are in a position to share with everybody else the how the business is built and even the company finances, you stop getting that question of why that you get from all of your individual contributors.
Mhm.
At Oracle, everyone was saying, but why do we do it that way? Why do we do it that way? And you take that off the table because everybody's educated in the mechanics of the business. What that also does with leadership, you would have seen this, is that when you're putting a company vision or a value creation plan in place, when you're putting a vision in place, nobody gives a damn about that vision other than you and your leadership team, right? But they will give a damn if you ask them what will make you give a damn about that vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they will understand that better if they understand the mechanics of the business.
You lit the fuse now, buddy. Let me tell you. So let me tell you what I've been working on, and I've talked about this in several podcasts. For a number of years, I've knowingly turned away from talking about mission statements. And the reason I did it, Jim and Denny, was you'd ask somebody, do you have a mission statement? Oh, yeah, we got one of those. Where is it? Oh, it's over there. See, it's hanging on the wall. Do you live it? Do you breathe it? Do you do it every day? We walk by it every day. It's just hanging on the wall. And I'll tell you, I have returned to that subject with great fervor and with great determination. And I want to tell you, let me just tell you the reason why. Here's the big three, as I call it. I talk about this all the time in my presentations. There are three big things. Number one, if you were to survey the skilled talent pool, number one, this is the three trends. Number one, people want to work for an organization whose values align with their own. They want you to care about things they care about, right? Number two, people, you said it before, you said the magic word, people want to be involved in the decision-making processes of the organization. People want to matter, and they want their work to matter. And they want to gain a level of control and autonomy over their own destinies. I have a habit of saying people want to be masters of their own fate. And the third thing is they want training and learning that develops them professionally and may spill over to their personal lives as well. Fine, it's a beautiful thing. But when you talk about values alignment, and I have this exercise called the shared values recruiting exercise I normally talk about. It's too long to do now. But the point is, here we are bringing people into our organization. We want to examine their values and see if their values match up to our values in the organization. But it cannot be done unless the organization itself is absolutely crystal clear on what its values are. It's like I had been building, to my own detriment, been building a bridge from one side of the river. And you have to build a bridge from two sides of the river. And if you get it right, you'll meet in the middle. And it's all about getting the values laid out. And the simple way of doing this that I found, and I used this on Monday and people loved it, and that is, did you see the movie 300 with Gerard Butler?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I said they had a wonderful slogan. The slogan was, "This is Sparta." Anybody have any questions? Anybody not know who we are? Anybody not know what we do? Does anybody, I don't know, anybody want to have a discussion about this? No. Does anybody want to go to HR with Leonidas and talk about this? No. This is Sparta. This is what we do. Okay. And what I did was I took a mission statement from another time in history and I laid it right next to the slogan, because this is Sparta is not a mission statement, it's a slogan. Mm-hmm. And that statement was, what's our mission? Our mission is to meet the enemy and destroy them. That's what we do. If anybody gets in our way, they're done. You know that we're at them. And I said, what's so beautiful about that? It's so clean. It's so powerful. Everybody, including the farmers who make food for the warriors, know what the mission is all about. And a lot of times, and to your point, we see a mission statement as something we want to portray to the outside world. Mm-hmm. We say, this is who we are, this is what we do, love us. And they forget that a great deal, in many respects, many times a mission statement is written for the people inside the organization. Absolutely. For people to say, I dedicate myself to this organization, I bring myself to this organization because that thing on the wall, that one sentence, that's what a mission statement should be, by the way, one stinking sentence, that's what we do, and this is what we do, and this is how we intend to do it. And that is the uniting part that focuses the energy of all the people in the organization. I'd love to get your reflection on that.
You've said it best, really. And I love the analogy. It's one of those things where, again, going back to simplicity thing, is that there is the persona of the leader that's critical in all of this. And I almost think sometimes when they choose leaders, they should spend a bit more time on the persona of the leader than their experience and what they've done before. But I think that the mission statement itself has to be the most selfless thing, right? And projects outwards from the firm, because a company is a fictional entity, right? It's a fictional construct, effectively. And our values are, we decide our values, but it's what sort of people that are going to take us there. If we are Sparta, the people that are going to take us there are the warriors. And I think it's a saying that I'm always using, which is to be a warrior in the garden rather than a gardener at war. And it's about having that leadership mentality of enabling them and teaching them to have all those constructs to go out and achieve that mission, come what may. Do they have the agility and the autonomy to do that and the skills to do that? And reflecting on your statement, it's something that I wish it was more commonplace, but unfortunately it's not. It certainly isn't in Europe. And I think a lot of it has to do with the PR of what we're projecting. It's more about what people will think. and how the board may look at it, and less about the actual projection
of a mission statement. She gets 5 paragraphs. This is our mission statement. I'm sorry, I have to let a part of my sarcasm leak in here now. I call it a roulette wheel mission statement, and it's next to the roulette wheel is the betting table, right? And everybody goes up to the betting table and they put money on every number. And the idea, we got a sure winner here. No, you're actually going to lose a lot of money if you try to cover all the bets. And that's what they do many times. I think to your point is they so care about what everybody else is going to think about them, what everybody else is going to say about them. You get that out of your head. You got to care about what you think about. I tell people that all the time. I don't care what you think about. I care about what I think about. I have to. That's my job, is care about what I think about and look for the meeting places, if you will, with other ideas and with other people. So I absolutely am locked in with that. That's wonderful. We're getting at the end, but I can't leave unless I ask you this question because it is my world famous question. I've asked for people all over the world: India, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Spain. If you had a magic wand and you could change anything in the world that you see, in the world that you work in, let's move it down to that area. In the world that you work in, what would that thing be, and why did you choose that?
I had a chance to pre-answer this, so I'll cheat a little bit. And I've been listening to the other episodes, so I got a chance to know this was coming. For me, I think I said something to this in our kind of prep work, was I want every leader that we get the chance to work with at River, if I could wave a wand, it would remind them why they did this. Simple as that. We don't work with the type of people who would answer that way. If I got into this to get rich, or I got into this to be the best blank type of SaaS or type of company in the world. The people we work with, the people who work with us, by the way, and James and I will be the first to tell you, within River Consultancy Group, we are the two dumbest people in the room. We've got some incredible people that we've brought into this consultancy who do amazing things. And every single one of them, if you said, why did you get into this? Every answer is, I got into this to help people. And that's why they're part of our group. And so when we talk to leaders, frankly, ask the same question. Why did you get into this? What was the thing that started this journey to be the head of this or the chief of this? And get back to it. Wave the wand, get back to it. And remember, you're doing it for the people you built this company for, or the people you built this company with.
Go ahead, Jim. You're up.
My magic wand trick would be to if I could wave a magic wand in front of any group of leaders or anyone I'd be around, I want them to instantly realize that the thing that they want isn't actually what they want. It's the thing that's the other side of it. So when you buy a nice car, is it the admiration that you're looking for after buying the car? When you're going to achieve your goal, is it the admiration? Is it a badge? What is it you're looking for? But think about the thing that is after the thing. That's what I'd want to know about, because there's the LinkedIn, your social media forums, they're full of things about outcomes. The life goes on, right? Life isn't about outcomes, it goes on. So I would love to just be able to say, but like to Denny's point, and why? What comes out of that? What good comes from that? And let's help. And we want people to help people get to that bit. It doesn't have to always be about winning and outcomes. It's the ongoing journey. I just think getting people to understand that rather than chasing the buck, it's a big deal.
Yeah, I know. I do podcasting for one reason: to make a difference. I'm hoping that I can make a difference and help people live a more productive, prosperous, and meaningful life. That's my core value through the practice of leadership and different things, and how you express that is different. But I gotta tell you, I've had a blast. This has been great. I really appreciate it so very much. It made me a lot smarter about SaaS. Now I look at Netflix with a much more discerning eye. And so I understand what's going on there with them. Gentlemen, I can't thank you enough for your time today here on the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. I wish to thank you for your time. I wish you all the success in the future. Thank you again so very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been great. Great fun. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.